Investigations into the copper theft at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital are continuing following yet another incident yesterday. In a space of 2 days, 2 critical wards, the main ICU and the 2 general surgery theatres were affected by copper theft. For the latest on the story, we now cross live to our reporter Linda Mnisi, who's outside the hospital. Linda, good afternoon. Just checking with you the impact of these 2 thefts, one on the back of the other.
Yesterday's incident, Hugo, happening just as the medical staff was returning 24 patients to the main ICU. Already, you can imagine the anxiety that they had, given the fact that they had to move at the speed of light, right? Removing those 24 patients after the copper cables were stolen on Monday, resulting, of course, in that evacuation that had to happen immediately when they noticed that there wasn't normal oxygen being pumped into that particular ward. But obviously this has generated some reaction in important stakeholders who are looking at the health sector, who are watching what the government is doing. I'm joined now by the DA's Shadow MEC for Health, Jack Bloom, who'll give us a sense of what they make of this incident. Jack, obviously it's one that is very, very concerning. We had an opportunity to engage the head of the ICU yesterday, and you could tell that they were quite concerned with what was happening here. From your understanding, I mean, what kind of briefing have you received so far?
Well, the information we have really is from the parties concerned. I think the Gauteng Health Department hasn't given us nearly as much detail as we need, but this is just unacceptable. It's massively traumatic for staff and patients. I have heard that one patient that was moved has subsequently died. We don't know if there's a direct connection, but certainly you should never have a situation where an ICU ward has to be evacuated because of theft of copper pipes. It's just unacceptable.
And we know that issues around copper and the building itself have a lot to do with the Department of Infrastructure. Do you think that there may be something that's happening behind the scenes that maybe the hospital staff may not be aware of? Are there labor disputes maybe?
Well, there is a suspicion of sabotage, and I can't imagine why, people would be motivated to do such a thing. But obviously copper is valuable, and there's a huge market for it, and we, in general, not doing enough about copper theft. But the Department of Infrastructure Development is really completely dysfunctional and corrupt as well. So I do suspect there was an inside job here. They probably had collusion with the security guards, and the scandal is that they're paying more than 20 million rand a year for security at this hospital, which should be sufficient, quite frankly. You can get a small army for that. Where are the security cameras? Why are we paying so much money for poor security? And the outrage is that all the security contracts for Gauteng hospitals were awarded in 2016. It was supposed to be a 2-year contract, and they've just rolled them over irregularly. So I think the DA is calling now for a complete security review of all our hospital contracts, including obviously Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Why are we continuing to renew their contract? Why aren't we not calling for, proper security companies, value for money, who do the job? Earlier this year we had terrible theft at the Sharp McMaker Johannesburg Hospital, which in fact looked like sabotage because, it damaged the CT scanner for a unit that they couldn't have got much money on the market for, and that delayed the reopening of the casualty unit for a month. So I think we need to have better intelligence about what's happening, what the possible grievances are, but there's no excuse for any of this. We shouldn't have such thefts that endanger patients and staff at all. But I have to say, if you look at the total number of thefts, this sort of thing happens all the time, quite frankly. The outrage now is because patients' lives have been put at risk.
You speak about a review in security contracts, and one of the things that the hospital is now looking at is the CCTV footage inside the hospital. Is there a concern, because there seems to have been a concerted effort to try and make sure that this is carried out well and it is successful to a certain extent? Do you think that the people behind this could have even gone to tamper with the CCTV footage or any evidence?
Well, I've no doubt that there was collusion, and it had to be an inside job. In fact, the access to that particular area was actually restricted. So how do we have, a restricted area that people are able to breach and cause so much havoc? It's just, unbelievable. And I think we need to have a full investigation about what's happened here. And we need to ask the hard questions. Why is this security company still guarding this hospital when their contract, terminated a long time ago? Why don't we have new contracts? And let's see if the footage of the cameras was terminated. I think that's such critical information. We have to get the culprits, and we shouldn't just charge them with theft. You can charge them with culpable homicide because, one patient has already died. It might not have been directly related, but certainly you put lives at risk.
Right, thank you so much for your time. Jack Bloom, who is the DA's Shadow MEC for Health, talking to us about their reaction to what has happened here at this hospital, Hugo. It's quite clear with their stance in terms of security, because you'll remember yesterday the Gauteng Department of Health saying that this seems like a sabotage. They're blaming sabotage for what has happened. It is indeed, as Jack puts it, a restricted area. So the people that had access to that particular plant room are people that would have known and would have had information. He speaks also about the review in security contracts because, of course, this has raised issues around the security at the hospital. How is it that people who are stealing copper at the hospital are able to leave the gates of the hospital, given the fact that every single car that goes in and out is a search? He speaks about a patient dying subsequent to that particular copper cable. We'll get an update as well from the Department of Health in terms of how those patients are doing, because when we left yesterday, what we were told was that they had been stabilized. So at this point, it seems those investigations will continue, and critical at the center of it would be the evidence, the CCTV footage of that particular plant room.
Linda Mnisi, that's where we'll leave it for now. Appreciate your time.